If you're over 65, having a partner might be more harmful than you think. Here's why. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to find peace and freedom as they grow older, while others feel increasingly stuck in their relationships? The reality is that after 65, having a partner isn't always the blessing it's made out to be. For many, it quietly turns into a form of emotional strain, draining energy, limiting choices, and making the golden years feel heavier than necessary. If you've ever felt like being in a relationship at this stage takes more than it gives, you're not alone. In this video, we're going to explore 5 reasons why having a partner in your later years could actually make life more difficult, not easier. Now, this isn't to say companionship is bad. It's about recognizing the full picture and making decisions that truly support your well-being. Stick around until the end. What we're about to discuss could shift your entire perspective on relationships after 65. Reason number 1. The emotional weight of constant compromise. With age, your capacity to tolerate stress decreases. Yet being in a relationship often requires ongoing compromise. In youth, adjusting your routines, preferences, or even personal boundaries may feel like part of building a life together. But as the years go on, you may realize that the cost of compromise is your peace of mind. Simple choices, what to eat, where to go, how to spend your day, can become draining negotiations. Take Robert, 74, who spent decades bending to his wife's preferences, only to find his own desires quietly buried. All he wants now is a peaceful morning, but his wife insists on loud television at sunrise. These small things, over time, turn a loving bond into a cycle of friction. In your later years, you shouldn't have to constantly bend to someone else's wishes. Yet many remain in relationships where they're endlessly managing another's emotions, comforting, adjusting, apologizing, while their own needs fade into the background. This emotional toll grows heavier with age, and what once felt like love can start to feel like obligation. True peace of mind becomes a priority, but many stay out of habit, unaware of how much lighter life could feel if they stepped back from always compromising. Reason number 2. The fading of personal independence. One of the greatest rewards of getting older is the freedom to finally live on your own terms. After decades of work, raising families, and caretaking, you've earned the right to do what feels best for you. But being in a relationship can still tie your choices to someone else's routines and expectations. Frank, 78, spent his life as a devoted husband. After his wife passed away, he realized he had never made decisions just for himself. Everything, from meals to vacations to evening routines, had been negotiated. Once alone, he discovered the quiet thrill of doing things without permission, without coordination. It was a kind of freedom he never knew he craved. Even in the most loving partnerships, you often have to check in, adjust your schedule, or consider someone else's opinion. It's not about disliking your partner. It's about realizing how much of your personal freedom has been quietly given up over time. Mental independence fades too. Years of discussion, debate, and compromise blend your thoughts with your partner's. But solitude offers a rare chance to reconnect with your own inner voice, unfiltered, unshared, and deeply honest. True independence in old age isn't just physical. It's mental and emotional, and many don't realize what they've lost until they have it again. Reason number 3. The quiet exhaustion of always adjusting. At first, relationships seem to offer comfort and security. But later in life, they may demand more emotional energy than you can comfortably give. Constant compromise becomes less of a lesson in patience and more of a slow drain. Again, Robert, the 74-year-old husband, comes to mind. He dearly loved his wife, but always found himself watching shows he didn't enjoy, eating food he didn't prefer, or adjusting his daily rhythm to hers. None of these were huge sacrifices, but added together over the years, they wore him down. After she passed, he braced for loneliness. But what came instead was relief. For the first time in decades, every choice was his alone. He hadn't realized how exhausting it was to always consider another person's feelings before making even the simplest decisions. When you're young, these adjustments feel natural. But in your later years, they can become a burden that interferes with the peace and ease you've earned. Something as basic as choosing a paint color or deciding on dinner becomes a negotiation. and that can be tiring. Freedom from debate, the ability to make choices without resistance, becomes a gift few people talk about but many silently long for. Reason number 4, the silent burden of becoming a caregiver. When people envision long-term relationships after 65, they often imagine comfort, companionship, and enduring love. But what many overlook is the immense responsibility that can arise when a partner's health begins to fail, and often, that decline comes sooner and faster than expected. Take James, for example. At 77, he had been married for over 5 decades when his wife became ill. Naturally, he stepped into the role of caregiver. At first, it was manageable, helping her with simple tasks, reminding her to take medication, offering emotional support. But as time went on, the weight of responsibility grew. His own health started to suffer. Sleepless nights, weight loss, and constant stress became his new normal. What began as an act of love slowly became an all-consuming duty. This is the harsh truth many elderly couples face. When one partner falls sick, the other often becomes the default caregiver. And while it may seem like a noble role, the physical and emotional toll can be devastating. Studies show that senior caregivers experience significantly higher levels of anxiety, depression, and physical illness. The demands of constantly attending to someone else's needs leave very little space for self-care or rest. The tragic irony? By the time the ailing partner passes, the caregiver is often left physically and emotionally depleted, in worse shape than if they had lived independently. Even in relationships where both partners are relatively healthy, the mental toll of constantly worrying about each other, whether they're eating well, taking their medications, or staying active, can be quietly overwhelming. On the other hand, many seniors who remain single or choose independent living avoid this stress entirely. Without the emotional weight of monitoring someone else's health, they're free to care for their own well-being, keeping their routines, energy, and peace intact. Loving someone is beautiful, but as you age, carrying the responsibility for another person's health can become one of the most difficult loads to bear. Choosing to focus on your own physical and mental health might just be the kindest thing you can do for yourself. Reason number 5, the hidden emotional and financial pressure of late-life relationships. There's a common belief that having a partner later in life brings financial and emotional security. But the truth is, it can often do the opposite, bringing unexpected financial burdens and emotional stress instead. Your later years should be peaceful and secure. But for many in relationships, they find themselves juggling shared expenses, rising medical costs, and complicated financial entanglements. Consider Robert, now 80. After living alone for years following his wife's passing, he enjoyed the stability of his pension and savings. Then, in his mid-70s, he began a new relationship. At first, it seemed like a fresh start, but his partner had financial issues of her own, and before long, Robert found himself covering expenses he hadn't anticipated. Everything from medical bills to helping her adult children navigate their own problems. What began as companionship quietly morphed into an ongoing financial responsibility. Before he realized it, Robert was dipping into his savings just to maintain the relationship. This scenario isn't unusual. Seniors who enter partnerships later in life often find their financial independence compromised. When one partner is financially dependent, tensions can rise, and it's not just about money. It's about fairness, autonomy, and the power dynamics that come with financial imbalance. Arguments over budgeting, spending, inheritance, or healthcare expenses can damage even the strongest emotional bond. Some seniors find themselves stuck in draining relationships simply because they fear financial instability or being alone. In contrast, older adults who choose to stay single often report a strong sense of financial control. They spend, save, and plan according to their own needs and values, without the stress of compromise or negotiation. Relationships in old age come with hidden costs, emotional, financial, and personal. If maintaining your independence and peace of mind is your priority, staying single may be one of the most empowering choices you can make. Final thoughts. Choosing freedom over obligation. As you grow older, the decisions you make about your relationships carry more weight than ever before. While society often paints companionship as a cure-all for aging, the reality is far more nuanced. For some, having a partner after 65 brings more complications than comfort. Aging gracefully isn't just about love. It's about freedom. The freedom to wake up and live on your own terms, to protect your energy, to avoid unnecessary stress, and to care for yourself first. Companionship can be wonderful, but only if it truly adds value to your life. If it brings more burden than joy, it's okay to rethink what you need in this chapter of your life. Because after 65, peace of mind isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Stress, conflict, and limitations on your independence. Take a deep breath and reflect. Life after 65 should not be defined by pressure, sacrifice, or quiet resignation. It should be a chapter of clarity, where you finally have the right to prioritize yourself, your peace, and your joy above all else. Yet for many, that's not always the case. Some remain stuck in relationships that no longer align with who they are, simply because it's what they've always done. Others fear the silence of solitude, mistaking it for loneliness, without realizing it may hold the key to their personal freedom. So I invite you now, gently, honestly, to pause and ask yourself, are you living in a way that genuinely serves your happiness? Are you surrounded by people who uplift your spirit? Or are you keeping relationships alive out of habit, guilt, or fear of change? It's okay if the answers are uncomfortable. Growth rarely feels easy, especially when it comes later in life when we're expected to settle in and stop questioning things. But here's a truth worth holding on to. You're never too old to choose yourself. Every person's circumstances are unique. Some find deep comfort and companionship in a relationship well into their golden years. But for others, those same bonds slowly become limiting, pulling them away from the freedom, autonomy, and lightness they deserve. If you're constantly feeling tired, emotionally burdened, or like your life is no longer your own, it may be time to reconsider what you're holding on to and why. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means having the wisdom to release what no longer nourishes your soul, and the courage to step into a life that feels more aligned with your truth. Aging is not a destination, it's a transition, a sacred chance to reset, to choose peace over pressure, and to live for you again. So whether you choose to share your life with someone or embrace the fullness of solitude, make sure it's a choice made out of love for yourself, not fear of being alone. Because there is nothing lonelier than staying in a place where your joy is quietly slipping away. Thank you so much for being here today. Your time, your presence, and your willingness to reflect mean more than you know. If this video sparked something inside you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment below and share one thing that resonated with you, one small realization, or one shift you're ready to make in your life. Your words may inspire others, just as you've been inspired today. We read every comment, and your stories give us the strength to keep creating meaningful content for this beautiful, thoughtful community. If you found value in this video, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, don't hesitate to share it with them. You never know how much a single video can change someone's perspective, or even their life. Until next time, take care of your heart, honor your needs, and never forget, you are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to start again. And you are allowed to live the rest of your life on your own terms, unapologetically.